Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of Can I Kick It FC. Before we begin, this is a previous episode that we recorded maybe a year ago that just never got released. So we're releasing it today. It's pretty much talking about the history of kits, how they're designed. We hear from Grego from For the Culture. You hear from L from 26 FC, Rocks from Chop Soccer. So it's a great conversation. Just sit back and enjoy it. Also, this is the end of season 3. We just want to say thank you to everyone that took the time to come on our show, for all the listens, for everyone that's engaged with our content. We want to say thank you. We truly couldn't do this without you. So, with that being said, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let you listen to past me talking to past them, and hope you guys enjoy the episode. So, holler you guys later. Always follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Can I Kick It FC. Holler you guys later. Bye. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the latest episode of Can I Kick It? This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and is joining me are, I would say, 5 of the greatest minds when it comes to soccer designs out there. If I had to say so myself, I'm going to let them introduce yourself because, 1, I'm horrible with names. 2, these guys have great personalities that they need to talk about for themselves. So I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let them explain for themselves.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Kyle Carr. I am one of the co-hosts for Forwards Backwards, Forward Madison podcast. I'm the co-founder of Featherstone Flamingos, Black supporter group for Forward Madison.
All right. Next.
My name is L. Johnson. I am the co-founder of 2 Cents Sports, also co-host of 2 Cents FC with my boy Moby Akugo. Happy to be here, man.
All right. Leave it down to you two guys. Who's going first?
Big Rocks.
What's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rocks Valentine. I'm the founder of Apollo Culture Club and 1/3 of Chop Soccer Podcast. Happy to be here with y'all and looking forward to getting into some good vibes.
All right. I can't see in these glasses, so hang on real quick. All right.
It's Grego. Glasses? You can't see them, though.
No, it's the glare, man. It's the glare. But yeah, it's Yogi's favorite friend, Grego from the Horticulture Podcast, the long lost member of the Red Army supporters group. I'm all over the place in Atlanta, chilling, drinking. What's up?
So that's who we have on the panel tonight. Also, we're doing our first ever live podcast, so you're experiencing everything with us. So if you got any questions or hear anything that's interesting that to the podcast, please put it in the chat and we'll try to answer it during tonight's show. As you can also tell, we're also wearing one of our favorite jerseys. For me, for instance, I have on the Heritage Night kit from the Richmond Kickers. You guys want to go through what jerseys you got on?
Well, I got on the Arsenal kit. I believe it's from 2012.
Yeah,
2012.
right. Sounds about right.
Somewhere around there, 2012, 2014. I think it's one of the most slept on kits that Arsenal released. It was an away kit. I think next to the Bruised Banana, this is probably like one of the hardest ones in my opinion. So
Okay.
And I got on the drip kit for Forward Madison FC. They released it last year, and out of all the kits that Forward Madison has released in their short time, this is easily the best one that they've made.
So, okay, real quick, I got a question about this drip kit. Was the drip kit designed to be like an extra kit for y'all, and y'all just made it y'all away jersey, or was it an away jersey that y'all said was an extra kit, and y'all was like, oh, it's an extra kit?
So it would have been the third kit that they would have used for the Open Cup and probably any friendlies that they had, but because of Rona, they just decided to rock it as the home kit, and honestly, they should just stick with this as the home kit moving forward.
Maybe not that in the lines.
USL's not going to allow it, but
Grego Rocks.
I'm wearing the Netherlands Euro 2020 kit. Just came out last year. Yeah, like I've been waiting for this to come out for a while, and as soon as it came out, it's like, yeah, that's an instant cop. So here you go.
All right. It rocks with you, my man. What you got on?
I got on a fictional team. So this is Big Apple United, representing for New York. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can see here in the patch. I'll try to get that detail in there, but it's got the 5 boroughs in there too.
Oh,
Inside the apple. And then, Neymar vibes, the Puma King. And I love this jersey because you cannot get it in the U.S. I had to work the network to pull this one in. So I got it. Here it is. I love it. It's dope. It's unique. It's Rock Fontaine type vibes. You know what I mean?
All right. So we got this.
It should be a team. It should be a team.
Should be. So all of us are wearing different kits because we saw the conversation on Twitter. I think L was the main one leading it, and Grego talking about the newest Atlanta United kit that looks like a training top. So the idea about soccer marketing when it comes to jerseys, how does soccer jerseys kind of break its way into the hip hop culture and Black communities? But then also, how is soccer jerseys and soccer itself being implemented into the Black community? So I guess we'll kind of just start off with that if anyone want to take it from there.
Let you kick it off, L.
Oh, put me on the spot. All right. In terms of soccer kits being introduced into the Black community, I think it's really starting with like the brands, right? So last year, I believe we saw the year before last, when Puma was doing a big campaign, they had like Meek, they had a couple other guys who were also signed to Puma wearing the kits. So wearing the Arsenal kits, wearing the other kits from other Puma teams, and kind of like helping to drip that into the Black community, drip that into the hip hop community. I feel like that's a way that brands are kind of, starting to integrate it into the community because, we make things cool, right? Our culture is popular culture. So they're looking for ways to kind of, penetrate and make things cooler. And I feel like that's one way that they've begun to do that.
Yeah, I think also the one thing that pops in my head is the 2018 Nigeria World Cup kit that came out. And I think that was one of the first ones that it featured Black people wearing it. It looked cool. It was out of stock, in high demand within seconds. Like you couldn't get that anywhere for the first month if you tried. So I think that was kind of the first one that pops into my head in terms of how it was advertised, how it was marketed, how everybody wanted to get that specific kit. And it was for a team in Africa. So I think that's really why I think that's when it started marketing to Black culture is you're seeing Black people for a Black country wearing it.
Yeah, that's very true. That Nigeria kit, man, I remember when it came out and all my friends that won't even like soccer supporters or anything were hitting me up and was like, yo, do you know where I can get this kit from? Do you know where I can get this kit from? And the coolest thing about that jersey was it wasn't even the design of the jersey. It was like all the other things that came with it, like the warm-up jacket, the pants. Man, that's a beautiful jersey. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let y'all two go next.
No, I mean, I can go all the way back to like the Fugees, like Wyclef and Pras wearing soccer jerseys and music videos, like going back to like the late 90s. But you've always kind of seen it, but I think like within the last decade, you saw more people just wearing it casually on the street. Whether it's something that's current or if they happen to have like a '98 Brazil stashed back somewhere. They just say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and rock this. They do that. Definitely here in Atlanta with the Atlanta United getting hot the last few years, it's kind of taking a life of its own, especially with the original home kit. It's kind of, you saw it everywhere from the Atlanta show to just artists and celebs all over the place. And it's definitely just taking a life of its own as far as just helping soccer become part of the lexicon just in mass in this country, whether it's with Black culture or just pop culture in general.
Okay. Rob, you got anything you want to add to that, my man?
No, it's pretty much the same like y'all said, man. We make things hotter. The first person I can really remember making jerseys visible in the street for me is Pusha T. You know, he was doing a lot of soccer jerseys, and I remember like looking at them like, what the hell is that? And then I realized they were soccer shirts, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of hard. But it never really looked like that until I myself got into soccer, and then I realized what he was doing. I was like, yo, like he's really been out here just doing this just because with no. It wasn't even like he was a big soccer fan. He just liked the whole aesthetic of it. So, you know, coming from that standpoint, we need more of that specifically for us, people who are, I think jerseys are a great way to switch the entry point for soccer, right? Because if we just trying to stab people's heads off and all the tactics we know and the coaches and players, like half that stuff, most of the kids from the block can't even pronounce. So that's not going to be the draw for them. But if it's a style thing and they just like the way it looks and it feels for them, it gives them a type of mood. If we can push that forward, we'll get more people into the game as time evolves.
So that's a great point, and I'm gonna ask this question: do you guys believe, like, with our generation and with the younger generation, there's like two different entry points into how soccer is? Mm-hmm. Because I would say for us, it's more of us like we have the access to watch it on all of these thousands of apps and everything else. But do you guys believe like the younger generation, the cooler and the more diverse the jersey is, that's kind of like the hooking point to get them in?
Absolutely. You know, if you just happen to see it like in a store and it just catches your eye, like you wouldn't know shit from anything as far as like what that team is and who's on that team. All you see is like, oh shit, that shit look dope, and that could easily just be your gateway. Like, and for those who are familiar with like playing FIFA, and then like so you can connect that to you actually be able to wear the same jerseys. Like, oh, like it just all it does is just help continue, you know, bridge that gap that and building that awareness of the game. And it's definitely something that you know if it pops, you know, eventually it's going to be on the street. It's just a matter of time.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think I agree, just because I would say with FIFA, especially like when you start looking at like FIFA 11, FIFA 12, 13, when Ultimate Team really started becoming a thing, and you can pick a specific kit for your home and away. So you can look at any kit that is in that game. And I think that was one of the entry points. And then you look and you go into an Adidas outlet store, you go into a Nike outlet store, and then it's kind of like what Grego was saying. You walk around and you see something sitting there, it catches your eye. I think FIFA for our generation is kind of that entry point, while for the younger ones, it is going to be more access to watching soccer via ESPN Plus, you know, Peacock, as crappy as that is at times, CBS All Access. And then you see it further for them because they're watching it on a tablet or their phone.
Yeah, that is something that it seems to be like that hooking. Because I remember growing up early 2000s, like seeing Nelly, and I'm trying to think who else, everyone just blanked in my head, but seeing Nelly like in basketball jerseys and stuff was like, oh, I like that jersey. Who's that? But that's kind of was that hooking point. So, I mean, when I got older, you know, I learned more about the game, but seeing that person, that celebrity in those jerseys was kind of the hooking point. So do you guys feel like soccer is kind of moving to that kind of era? Before they were kind of behind it, but you guys feel like now they're kind of pushing it and being like, hey, let's bring in these hip hop artists, you know, these influencers to kind of push soccer more in America?
Yeah, I think like Grego mentioned, and like I'm sorry, I forgot your name, bro. Kyle. FIFA is definitely gonna be the hook that like makes soccer bigger in this country, because you know kids are playing video games at a higher pace right now. Esports is at an all-time high, so that's becoming like an avenue for kids to kind of get popular, get big. So they're playing more games, and then FIFA being what it is, Ultimate Team being what it is, it's drawing more people into the game. So as they're learning the rules, understanding the rules of the game, making it easier for them to transition over into actually watching it on TV because they understand the game. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that'll be our big hook. And then the way that EA is marketing the game, you know, they're adding cool factor to it. They're introducing us to, you know, Mbappe, Neymar, all the cool players. They're also blending in hip hop artists, the music that's in the game. So blending in hip hop into the game, UK hip hop, you know, American hip hop. just kind of tying everything together. I feel like that's going to be like kind of the catalyst for, making it more popular and accessible in the United States.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone want to add anything? Before we move on? All right. So when it really comes to it, I really had you guys on here because I wanted to, get you guys' opinion because I feel you guys are leaders in the soccer community, definitely from a Black perspective. But what can be done to push soccer in the Black community? Definitely get it to a point where you're having more people of color in higher positions, but also what's the missing part of it? I guess what I'm trying to ask. Like, what's the thing that is like, yeah, you could get like 2-3 people in, but it's not like they're sticking in for the long term. They're like, it's a cool thing to do. Yeah.
I would say on this one, we need investment. We need marketing, right? So for me, the proof is already in the pudding. Prior to 2017, MLS had an excuse, right? They could say very easily, we're just not sure a market is there in the Black community for us to invest in marketing to them. Then along came Grego and Atlanta United. And the numbers speak for themselves, fam. 70,000 nights, bro, outselling the Falcons. That's Black people. Because the way they market that game in Atlanta, it's the streetcar is wrapped in Atlanta United. You go to Killer Mike's shop, they got Atlanta United there. You go anywhere in the city, Atlanta United. You drive in the neighborhoods, people got the Atlanta United flag out in the street. Like, there is a different type of embracing of that team, and thus the whole game gets elevated in the hood. So all those pieces count, but it starts with marketing. I had a big argument with a friend of mine about this because she's worked in marketing for many years with law and stuff like that. And she was just like, well, it's kind of chicken or the egg. And I'm like, no, it's not chicken or the egg. This is how it works. This country knows very well how to market absolutely anything they want to. If they want to sell you a car, they're going to sell you a car. Doesn't matter if it's a 50-year-old brand or a 2-year-old brand. If they want to sell you sneakers, they're going to sell you sneakers. They do not want to sell us soccer. If they do it, people will come. When the advertising targets us, is designed for us, invites us, includes us, celebrates us, elevates us, we will get involved the same way we do with anything else. Okay. But the league doesn't do it because they're terrified of, they know what the culture will become overall with a look like us. NFL, NBA, baseball, even to a much lesser degree in the modern era, but they all have or have had in the past very strong Black presence. And that created a very specific dynamic and space for Black culture within those games. Obviously, NBA and NFL are the top two there. Soccer has very, very traditional 100-year history roots, right? And a lot of people don't want that to change. They don't want to move away from singing the songs and doing the chants and tailgates in their specific way. Like, they want that to stay just like that. The firms and the hooliganism and all that, they never want that to change. If we come, it's going to be different. It's going to look like Curtis and Footy Mob, where the tailgate got the DJ pumping, the marching band coming out. You got the fraternity bros out there. It's going to look different when Grego is doing it, when he's doing the number sets and he's got it plastered over everybody's shit. And, it's just a different sauce, man. And it don't look familiar to them, and they don't want that to change. Marketing has to be the number one step. You sell the game to us, we will come.
I mean, just to kind of piggyback on that, because definitely I think what happened here is definitely not the norm anywhere. I was fortunate. I used to live up in the DC area, and I would look at what they were doing with DC United, and I think, like, other than like one event they had at Ben's Chili Bowl, DC United didn't really do a whole lot of marketing up in that area. Like, you might be lucky, you might get a billboard on a city bus or whatever, but other than that, like, you didn't really see DC United like at a visible level. So like they weren't really reaching white people, let alone us. So it's definitely something to where in a lot of cases, teams just have to just put themselves out there. Like they can't just rely on, okay, our team's good this year, people will come. Like it takes more than that. Like you have to market. Like you have to just say, hey, win or lose, we're marketing our team. And like if you and then you take that message and then take it into our neighborhoods where we're at, eventually, just out of curiosity, we'll come check it out. And I think that I've seen like with the new teams that have come since United, I'm like some have picked up that energy, some haven't. And like you just have to just take that leap and say, hey, no matter how this works out, we're going to put ourselves out there, and just by word of mouth and then also by the presentation that you put on the pitch, it'll eventually you keep going at it, it'll come. And I think that too many teams are just scared to just, whether it's just us or just having people, period. They're just like we just want to just stay with our little bubble of supporters. I'm like, no, put yourselves out there, put that voice out there, and the results will come.
Kyle,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I agree. I would say in addition to marketing, you also have to have accessibility, right? So when it comes to basketball, football, you always see a kid in the hood with a football or a basketball. It's easy to pick it up and go play, right? But when it comes to soccer, it's not as easy in the inner city to just pick up a soccer ball and go play. Like it's not something we've been exposed to. So shout out to like programs like Soccer in the Streets in Atlanta, who are using the MARTA stations to create small pitch fields to allow kids to kind of get introduced to the game. I think we need more of that programming as well in these inner cities, on top of the marketing. So like you see the professional level, you see where they can reach, but then you also see, all right, how can I get in? How can I get in? What's the entry point? And they had that in their neighborhoods.
Yeah, and I think to round it all up, I think you got to make Black people feel like they're welcome there. That was something that was mentioned during the Playing for Change panel at the ISC conference. But when you get there, most of the time, you're probably one of the few Black people. And like I said, Atlanta's going to be different. New York might be different. LA might be different. But, when you're looking at Madison, when you look at even Minnesota, you look at other MLS teams, USL teams, NISA teams, there's not that many Black people. And I think part of it is because they haven't felt welcome there to an extent. So I think having it be that you're welcome there, you feel like you belong there, and people want you there. I think those are the things that I think will go a long ways, just because, yeah, I mean, you might check it out for one game, but if you go for one game and you're like, this isn't for me, like, I don't know, no one wants me here. I stick out like the sore thumb, like everyone's just using me as a token Black guy, then you're not going to want to come back.
Definitely. Just one last thing, because I know I'm not sure if it was Rocks that had it or Ben Goshorn. He's a lead supporter out in Charlotte. We were having like calls like during the pandemic earlier last year. But the key thing there is just you got to be inviting to want us to be in there. It's one thing to just like we just come up and you say like, hey, here's a T-shirt, here's a beer, and that's it. Like you really have to just extend that arm and say, hey, we want you to be a part of this. And, hopefully, like I said, just put yourselves out there, say, hey, we want you a part of this. And either that person will take it or they won't. Like the worst thing they can have is to just say no. And that's okay. You can deal with that. Just go ahead and put yourselves out there to say, hey, you want to be a part of this. We got a place for you here. If you do that much, hey, I think only good things can come from that.
Okay. And there was a point you guys made that I really want to dive into about what does it look like when a soccer team markets to us directly? Like, Gregor, I mean, you can probably speak about it perfectly being in Atlanta. How is it when a soccer team markets to your community, your culture? How is it done in a way that doesn't come across as, we just want you here to be the token Black guy? They actually want you in that space because they want you to be there. How does that look?
I mean, it's weird because like I still go at the front office even to this day. I'm like, y'all could still do more as far as reaching out. Like it's an open joke for a lot of us that they don't do any marketing south of Highway 20. It's like if anybody who knows Atlanta knows that basically you have everything up north of 20 and south of 20, and there's really not too much marketing south of 20, and they still have a large Black contingent even despite that, and I think that, and that goes to show you just the strength of what Atlanta United is doing, and the presentation of their park course, at least up until last year, because we sucked last year. But I think that with any of that, it's just a matter of, okay, if I'm already in there, let me see if I can get somebody else in there like that looks like me. And again, that goes back to just being inviting and just saying, hey, I see you, you should be a part of this, whether it was me when I was from Resurgence, or Curtis and Footy Mob, and Reggie and Footy Mob, or Daryl Watson and Turner's Legion. Like, like we found each other very quickly, and we're like, hey, let's link up, and try to bring as many people up in here as we can. And I one of the things I look at when in social media, like, hey, I want to make sure that Black fans know that, hey, you're not alone. Because I remember going to Lot 8 at RFK, and you would see us sprinkled in the mix, but like for the most part, you kind of just felt like you were just there. And I think that making sure that you take the extra step and say, like, hey, like, I see you, like, grab a brew, like, let's chop it up. Let's see, like where you might fit up in this. And, whether it's something where you're a capo like Reggie McKee and Footy Mob, or if you just doing like regular, like match day setup and everything, like you never know, like where you might fit in that. But the important part is that that they know that, hey, you're wanted, you're invited, like you are a part of this experience too, and only positive things can come from there.
Okay. I want to open it up to you guys as well. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. What does it look like? Now, you can just talk about your favorite soccer team as well, or wherever soccer community. But what does it look like when that soccer team marketed to you to bring you into a space that feels safe and feels like you're wanted to be there?
I think for us, it's having that supporter group, having Featherstone, and Chris Fox. He was the one that was contributing to designing the away kit. He was the one that was out advertising the strip kit. Like, he is in the video. Like, so I think for us in Madison, it was more they reach out to us. They want our input. They want our opinion. So I think for us, at least it showed they might not hit the mark every time, but at least they're trying to, and they're trying to do so in good faith 99% of the time. So I think that's how, for us in Madison, just having us involved and having us provide input.
Okay.
For me, here in New York, you would think it would be pretty easy. You would think it would be second nature to do. But I can tell you from firsthand experience, New York City Football Club has done just about nothing to market to us. And what I would say that a team could do anywhere in the country is, number one, if you have, and I know every team does to one degree or another, if you have Black fans, elevate them. That's number one. Empower them. When I was president of TR in New York, I was everywhere, not for me, just to be seen so that other people could see me and say, hey, Black person, visible, looks like me, talks like me, maybe I should check this out. Teams need to do that. They need to take you, Elliot, Richmond Kickers, need to give you a budget and say, go work. They need to give Elliot a budget and say, go work. They need to give Greg and Curtis a budget and say, go work. They need to give L a budget for whatever team he chooses and let him work, period. That's the only way it happens, because we already know the ownership doesn't care, right? They only care about the dollars. If they can't see the dollars in plain numbers on a spreadsheet somewhere, they do not care. So that leaves it to employees and fans. And employees already got enough going on trying to live their Black existence inside of a club, right? And then it's us. And then teams get funny about, oh, we don't want to blur the lines between fan and employee. Like, it has nothing to do with that. Either you want to do this the right way, you want to make it organic, you want to make it authentic, or you don't. And right now, teams do not. They can say whatever, they can tweet whatever, but until they start empowering the people who are already on the ground, who already put paces in, who already have work to show, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Put the money up.
It's really that simple.
It is. That's what it comes down to. L, anything you want to add, my man?
Nah, man, they pretty much covered it. I think to kind of piggyback off what Rock said in terms of authenticity, I think that's something that Atlanta kind of did well in the beginning, is tapping into the fabric of the city. Everybody knows Atlanta is one of the hip hop capitals. So they tapped into that network, tapped into, bringing Jeezy, Big Boy to the game, 2 Chainz to the game, to pound the spike in at the beginning of the game, and kind of made it cool to like soccer. It's like, all right, if Big Boy and Jeezy's rocking with soccer, like maybe I should try it out. Maybe I should check it out. I heard the game is lit. So I think tapping into that authenticity of the city, not trying to pander, but being authentic in a way that embraces, embraces the effect that hip hop has had on the city. I think that was one way that they did it well.
Okay. We got our first listener question. It comes from Elias Zach. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Charged my mind, not my heart. Is there a difference in marketing to the African American community versus African immigrants?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Yes. Yep. That's no diss. That's no shade. The shit is different. Period.
Absolutely.
Here's why. This is the world's game. Everybody else already knows. You don't need to convince them of anything. Black Americans don't know, and they do not care. There's a reason for that, though. The game has never been accessible to us, really. It's never been marketed to us. So why should we care? And if I want to make my career as an athlete, everything I've ever been shown is that the money is in the NFL and the NBA. So I'm shooting for one of those. That's it.
Yeah.
But whenever you give us access, whenever you give us opportunity, whenever marketing is done right and it's put in front of us and we are invited and welcomed and given the tools to have the tools necessary to contribute, we elevate. We change the game every time. Every time. Pick a sport, pick a brand, pick a whatever, pick a culture. Until we get there, it's different. I'm not saying better or worse. I'm saying it's different. When we come, it's different. So to answer that question, simple terms, yes, there is a huge difference, and that has to be specified.
Yeah, definitely. Like me and Rox, we had this conversation like last year because, like, of course, for people who know the New York area, like you have Africans, West Indians, like you have a huge Black community, not just African American in that city, and like you're not even appealing to the Yardies like that. You're not appealing to the Jamaicans and Trinis like that. Like, and they're not fucking with the product here. And it's like you have to figure out a way to get them, because like in most cases this is their first sport. So it's like, so you want to get those people who are already ingrained to go ahead and like soccer to deal with it. And like we can go into a whole rabbit hole as far as why they don't vibe with the product here, but at the same time you still have to market to them, then also market to us that's grown and lived here for all our lives. But you have to, there's definitely a different flavor for each community, but at the same time you got to go for it. Just say like, hey, like I don't think any league, whether it's MLS, USL, NISA, all of them, none of them are in a space to where it's like, okay, like we can be content with what we have. There's always room to grow. And whether it's no matter what community it's like, hey, just go for it. It's like there's really nothing to lose. Just go for it.
Question: who's the face of MLS? Is there a face?
Is that part of the problem? That's a very good question. That is a very good question.
No, and it should have been DeAndre Yedlin when he was here.
I would slightly disagree. I feel like Jeremy Abogusin, just because of what he. Well, I would say just this past year for everything he did, kind of pushing the whole dialogue and the whole MLS is back with the Black Players Association. Also, who was the player for the Red Bulls?
Tyler Adams?
Not him. He was the president of the Black Players Association this year. I can't think of his name.
Justin Morrow?
Yes.
Oh.
Those two, I feel like, really, truly and surely could have been the face. Also, Jose, as Kurt McGritt says, Jose is one. But I definitely feel like one of those three definitely could have been the face. But as you're right, there isn't a clear face.
No, it's so weird because especially like in Jose's case, same case with his team, Michael Bradley, they're in Canada, so it's like they're not really particularly visible to the American audience like that. Like I think like unless there's an away game, you don't really see too many Toronto FC home games here in the U.S. unless you're watching ESPN Plus. So in a lot of cases, like the way MLS is covered, just in general, I think is ass backwards on a lot of levels. But I think that, especially ever since Landon Donovan retired, they've been trying to find that face, and I think they found Joseph Martinez here. They found Vela, Diego Valeri up in Portland. Like they found like little faces here and there, but as far as like just actually, putting them out there, like it's been, I'll say half-assed at best. Like I think that there's definitely, like you could use Bill Mead up in DC. You can use Sean Johnson. Like there's definitely been faces that people know. It's just a matter of are those guys actually staying here long enough to where we can build our brand behind these guys, or else they're going to leave over to Europe within 2 or 3 years. Like how does that all work? It is definitely a tricky balance, but I think that it's tough in that situation because it's not like NFL or NBA where that, hey, no matter what happens, LeBron's staying in the NBA. He's not going to play Italian ball. He's not doing that. And you have to figure out like, okay, how can we make this work where this guy might only be here for 5 years and then he might dip, but you know that, hey, this guy is the best that MLS has to offer. And that's whether it's someone from overseas or someone that's actually was born and developed here, like Brendan Aronson. That's a guy that could have easily been a face of this league, but he's already gone like before he's even 21. So again, it's just a matter of like how do you account for when that guy leaves, like what happens there?
I think it's kind of similar to baseball, where if you had to ask who the face of baseball is, who are you going to say?
Judge,
Trout.
But the thing with Trout is Trout ain't marketed.
Yeah, he's
like
out
the
west.
face. He's the best player in the MLB, but he's not marketed like the best player.
He's out
in
west.
the MLB, and I think MLS has that same problem. You think of who the best teams are. Maybe you'd think Seattle, you think LAFC, you think Atlanta, you think Toronto, but you don't feel like they have the stars that get marketed and treated as such. Like NBA, you have LeBron. Even if LeBron retires, you can look, you still have Kevin Durant, you still have Zion Williamson, you still have Giannis, you still have Luka Doncic. You look at the NFL, you have Pat Mahomes, you have Lamar Jackson, you have guys that you can look and it's like, this is a generational talent. And unfortunately with MLS, there isn't anyone that you can consider like this guy is going to take the league by storm. This guy is going to have all the power in the world. This guy's going to want people to come to him. And I think that's the tough part with MLS. There isn't that one singular player, but there also isn't that one singular team that's establishing itself as a dynasty where you look like the Yankees wait for the last, 2 decades. The Yankees were the team and Derek Jeter was the guy. So therefore, Derek Jeter was the face of baseball because he was the face of the baseball team.
Right.
And it's just not like that in MLS. Part of it is because of how they have it structured, but part of that is because MLS hasn't done enough to make it feel like this is the guy.
Yeah, that's something that I've said it for a while. Like parity in MLS is overrated because because of the way it's set up, it doesn't really allow for that one super team for everyone to hate. Like you always have, whether it's the Yankees, whether it's the Patriots, whether it's the Celtics, whether it's the Heat. You know, when LeBron was there, like you always have like one team.
You
It's
could
like,
always hate Chattanooga.
yeah. I don't know if it's going to happen for Chattanooga, but yeah. But
No one gives a
you
fuck
always
about
have,
Chattanooga.
but you always have that one team that's like, you know, like, I can't wait for us to beat that one team that everyone just hates. Like I think that in a lot of cases, people kind of saw that with us here in Atlanta. It's like they saw those big crowds, they saw all the merch everywhere. It's like I can't stand how they just all over the place. But then of course we went to shit last year, so we'll see how things go this year. But I think that you need that plays a part into the marketing too. It's like, you know, like, hey, let's go see LA Galaxy and their big star and they're always on top every year. And then suddenly they're not. Like that kind of just that interrupts what MLS is trying to build. Like you have to kind of find a happy medium to where teams can stand out on their own but at the same time it's still open for everyone to still have a chance. Like granted, it's part of it's because the league is still young, but at the same time, you want to go ahead and put that foundation right now. It's like, hey, if LA Galaxy's on TV, everyone's going to see it. If Atlanta United is on TV, everyone's going to see it. If it's NYCFC, everyone's going to want to see them. Like those are things that you want to have happen. Of course, that comes with championships and all that will come with time, but you want to go ahead and start putting that foundation in as soon as possible.
Yeah, I also say that we could also place some blames on the brands as well. So, for example, you see the way Weston McKennie is blowing up, right? Why isn't Adidas throwing money at this man, making him the face of American soccer? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's things like that are also dropping the ball and making it harder for us to get into the sport because we're not seeing that LeBron figure that looks like us, that's balling out, whether it be domestically or overseas. We're not seeing that in front of us. You know, like we see a Neymar, but like, how much do we connect with Neymar? Like he's foreign,
right?
Like he may have African heritage, but he's Brazilian. He's not American. Same thing with Mbappe. He's French. Like, so it's harder to kind of relate to somebody who's foreign versus somebody who's domestic. I think Adidas should be I think Weston McKennie should be on front of every Adidas campaign, every box, every Wheaties box, whatever they can do to get this man to the forefront. He's playing with Cristiano Ronaldo in a top league in Europe at Juventus, you know, starting pretty regularly. Like, there's no reason why they shouldn't throw marketing dollars behind him.
So I'm gonna ask a question. I might ruffle some feathers, but it is what it is. If you got an issue with it, don't tweet me about it. Ask me in person. When it comes to a player like Weston McKennie, do you feel like soccer? How can I say this? Soccer authorities here in America don't want to put a player like Weston McKennie on Front Street because they're trying to push other players like Christian Pulisic or, you know, Josh Sargent, things like that. Do you feel like, you know, it's a color bias almost? Do you kind of feel like it's kind of that? Whereas Weston McKennie was white and he was doing all these things, he would have been, you would have seen his face all over FIFA and everything else. Or something different.
Look here, Gaslighter. But you know, it's tough because you're dealing with a far bigger market, especially when it comes to soccer, as compared to the NBA, where you know that no matter what, they're focusing on home here in the U.S. And granted, he signed to Adidas. He's on a top Adidas team with Juventus. Of course, the biggest team in Italy, one of the biggest in Europe. And I'm not sure if Adidas really knows how to, you know, market players individually. I think if it's not Messi, they don't know what to do. Like if it's either Messi or Pogba, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not sure if they even know what they have on their hands with a player like Weston McKennie. It's tough, but I definitely think that, of course, Nike, they have Pulisic. They have him on a Nike team with Chelsea. And they're like, hey, we know what to do with this. We're like saying we're going to.
They're not even pumping Pulisic like that, though.
No, they were last year. Well, at least until the pandemic. But they knew that, hey, this is a guy that we need to get on TV. So whether it was when he was still with Borussia Dortmund, you saw more Dortmund games on Fox. When he went to Chelsea, NBC had as many games they could with when Pulisic was in line to say, hey, we're going to have these guys on our TV. And I think that in a lot of cases, it comes down to that brand knowing what to do with that particular player. Of course, we all know about MLS's deal with MLS, and we can find about 30 different reasons as far as like they're not even doing a good job as far as what's actually here. So you can only imagine what they would do with players who aren't playing in MLS. So kind of like you're kind of burning the candle at both ends. Like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I think that a smart marketing team would take full advantage of the fact that you have a top American player on a top European team in your brand, but not everybody knows how to do that.
It comes down to a few things. Christian Pulisic is white, so he gets the white savior complex, and everyone immediately does it, even when we clown him on GQ. He's playing for a Premier League team, one of the most well-known Premier League teams in the world. So he has those two things going for him. Even if you had to try and think of, if you ask a casual American soccer fan, I'm saying casual, who's the second player they say? They're probably going to go with Gio Reyna.
Yeah.
Because he's still white. He's playing for a team that the majority of casual white soccer fans know in Borussia Dortmund. Because you have the Bundesliga, which I would say is the second most popular European league behind the Premier League. So you combine those two things. That's why those guys are probably going to get more of that attention, more of that marketing. Tyler Adams, I think most people would argue, like most American soccer fans would say, Tyler Adams might be one of the most impactful players that the U.S. currently have, maybe behind Pulisic and Weston McKennie, but he's rarely talked about. He's rarely marketed, and he's still playing for a top league. And while Leipzig might not be a top team of the stature of Chelsea or Juventus or Borussia Dortmund, he's still playing regularly in the Champions League. He's still one of the guys. So I think it's just kind of that combination where for McKennie, yes, he's playing on Juventus, but how many casual American soccer fans are really following Serie A?
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to start growing more as it's on ESPN Plus and more people have ESPN Plus, but there's still a lot of catching up. It's something that Adidas can also work on as well. But I think it's just one of those things, because I feel like if Weston McKennie was playing at Manchester United, that's an Adidas team right there. They would promote the living hell out of it on NBC.
To no end.
I wanted to shift it because we were talking about a lot about the men's game. JBlock49 on Twitter definitely gave a great suggestion about like Crystal Dunn. But when it comes to, I'm going to speak mostly about the U.S. women's national team. Why don't we see more? I'm going to ask two questions. Why don't we see more people of color in the women's game get promoted? And why also is it seem like every black woman that's a great striker or a great attacking mid or a great winger, they get shifted back into a defensive role?
I swear, if they put Katarina Macario as a defender, I might have to fly on and fight Vlatko myself. Just going to say that.
I think this one might be yours, El.
Yogi brought up that black defender theory we got. But Rock, you about to say something?
I was going to say, it comes down to a couple of the key points we just discussed. So one, we were talking about how you need to be like, it's preferable for an attacking player, right? To be on and popping in great form, scoring goals, and then a white face. Those two things together is something that's easy to market, right? So it all comes back to money. It's all about how do we generate more money? And when these people are looking at like, who do we want to put marketing dollars into so we can get return on that investment, they're looking at who the kids are looking at. So this is already a suburban game. Little white girls and little white boys going to these private clubs where they are spending $2,000-$3,000 a season to play, and they're competing, and that's your only real pipeline to the pro game. So those kids they look at a picture of Tyler Adams or a picture of Christian Pulisic, they want to be Christian Pulisic, right? So with the women, it's the same thing. You got Rapinoe, Heath,
Alex
Morgan, Kristen Press. She's black, but she's light as hell. So all these women attacking, scoring goals, making it look fun, making it look easy. Rose Lavelle, right?
I might catch some heat for this, but it was not until the World Cup that I realized that Kristen Press was black. When she made the tweet,
it wasn't until she said it that I realized she was black.
Yeah. But listen, it was weird. I think we all had that same moment. But when I thought about it, I was like, that was a brilliant play by her. Because if she had said it before, it wouldn't have been the same. We can promise you that. We can promise you that. They let her rock because there was no she was palatable, right? It was easy. She was the one that wasn't really going to kick up a fuss. So that's why we have this difficulty when Donald is in here saying Dunn, Press, McDonald, Smith, Purse, Macario Williams, and Rodman and Pinto coming. Yes, they're all coming, but they're coming with blackness, specific, right? Which is fine. That's what they're supposed to do. But that's going to make it difficult for them in the same way it has been for everybody else when it comes to this marketing and getting the shine that they deserve as players. The best we're seeing right now is Zierra King. She's getting all the love, all the hype she deserves, and more. And we need that for all of these incredible players. But like you're saying, Crystal Dunn needs to be the face of the U.S. women's national team. By far, the most incredible woman talent we've seen on this team ever. She can play anywhere on the field and bust your ass from that position. It's unbelievable. And it's like there's nothing you can say that can take away anything from her. You can't say she's not technical. You can't say she's slow. You can't say she's whatever, right? She can do literally anything on the. You could probably play her at keeper, and she would still bust your ass, which is just insanity, right? But that's more of we need to change that too, because this is more of black people have to be 10 times better and do 30 times what everybody else does to get even a tenth of the recognition that you can get just for being a solid midfielder, a reliable midfielder. Come on, bro. This woman is out here changing the game, and she's not getting the advertising, endorsements, or whatever that she should have. The way they're elevating Pino is the way they should be elevating Crystal Dunn, period.
It is weird because I think people don't either haven't looked up her resume. I'm like, she was a MVP in the NWSL as a striker. So I don't know too many
you can learn more about her on one of our episodes of Can I Kick It? We did a whole episode on Crystal Dunn. Check it out.
But you have women like her. You have Mitch Purse, who grew up as a striker, and I think at the last call up, they've talked about moving her to right back, and I'm like, I get it. We are athletic, we're strong, we're all those buzzwords that we often give black players, but like Rock said, like we have players that can really bust your ass constantly, and I think that for there's a lot of reasons in general why they're not marketing women, period, in the national team, but especially the black women. Like your black women are arguably the most talented players on the roster. There's not even an argument with Crystal Dunn. Like, she is easily the most and probably the most important player that you have on that team right now, because she can cover so many spaces on that roster. And I think that goes without promotion, that goes without much recognition. And I've definitely noticed in the past few months, you have people that are basically going out of their way to make sure that Crystal Dunn gets her flowers, because she deserves it. She's earned that shit. And I think that whether it's us here as men on this particular podcast or just anywhere, period, you got to recognize when these women are out there putting that work. And I think that Crystal Dunn doesn't get nearly the amount of recognition that she deserves. I hope that with her move to Portland, they put her back up front and let her wreck shit, because she's done this before and done it well. And hopefully, nobody gets in her way. But with the way U.S. soccer is, you never know. But I think that there's a lot of elements in play as far as why the right women don't get the proper shine. But definitely, like we all at least individually, whether it's through our media, whether it's through our social media, we can make sure that, hey, let people know this is somebody that needs to be doing that shit. And hopefully with the new girl Katerina Macarino, it's the same case with her, because like she's already going over to Lyon. I'm like, you need to make sure that even though she's over in France, people need to know about her.
Yeah, facts about that. Facts. Kyle, I got a question for you, man. Since me and you are probably one of 3 lower division soccer fans, well, black fans. It's not a lot of us.
There's also April. There's also April
and Chris.
April. You're right. That's what I'm saying. It's 3. It's 3 of us. That's the 3.
Chris over in New Mexico.
Oh, okay, 4. We got 4. A strong 4. You go play it like space. We got 4 in the possible. But Kyle, let me ask you this, man. When it comes to your club, Forward Madison, how is it that club is able to be in a place like Wisconsin? Which I'm not gonna lie to you, I was shocked as hell to see black people in those stands that first game. I was shocked. How is it a club like Forward Madison is able to pretty much come onto the scene and make not only the game accessible to the black community, but also make it feel like it's a safe space at the same time?
I think it's a combo of the club actually putting in the work to get involved in the community, but also the supporter groups making sure that any black fans and hell, any person of color, any woman, anyone with disabilities, to make them feel as welcome as possible in any way, shape, or form. I think it was those 2 things. So as much the club definitely does what it needs to try and go out to the community, but I think it's also on the supporters to make sure that they go out and they identify people and they make them feel welcome. Some of the things that we tried doing is having a all women's capel stand. One of the things that I always want is for each supporter group between Labara, between Mingle Ladies, between Featherstone, Ford Union. We're going to have a new supporter group coming up in a few weeks, hopefully. But to have them represented on that capel stand, for example, so that's someone that you see them and you hear them. So, and I think it's just, like I said, it comes down to the club, but it really comes down to supporters. If the supporters are going to put in that work and the supporters are going to put in that effort, then you're going to see those results. And I think that's more of a testament to what we've been able to do at the Flock. We can always do more. We can always do better, but it's at least a start that I think a lot of lower league clubs should approach as well, as having their supporter groups make sure that they honestly and put in the good faith to reach out to their black supporters, to the black people in their respective cities. Chattanooga's a lost cause, so they're out. But every USL club, every NISA club, every NPSL, there's no excuse. You have black people in your city. You have black people that could be interested. You just got to go out and reach out to them.
Facts. Anything you guys want to add to that?
No, I think that in too many cases, I think that you have a lot of teams that who are complacent with their fan base, and I wish we had our guys up in Chicago, Jake and Phil from Blackfires. They can kind of attest to that. I think that you have teams like who have been around for 20, 25 years, and it's like they're just okay with that bubble. Say, hey, these guys are going to always come, and hey, we're good with that. I'm like I mentioned earlier, there is plenty of room to grow for pretty much every team at every level, and I think that you have to push these teams to do more, because we've talked offline before, Yogi. Like, you have teams that they are relying on the supporters to bring more fans, and I'm like, no, like that. If at best that's a joint effort, and like the team has to give reason for people to come to as much as the supporters, or say like, hey, come fuck with our vibe, like come check us out. Like, there's definitely a synergy with that effort, and if you are over relying on one entity to bring that in, at some point they're gonna feel disrespected and abused, and they're gonna be like, nah, like we good, like y'all keep doing us dirty, and not really appreciating what we're doing. And who wants to be part of that type of relationship?
Yeah, definitely facts with that, man. I mean, I'm not trying to interject my own personal thoughts into this. I really want you guys to speak on it because you guys are kind of the leaders of it. But being here in Richmond, I always ask myself, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I help pushing the game in the community in the right way? And I find myself sometimes making sure I don't fall into the category of being the token black guy for the kickers. Being that person they could just pop up and be like, we got a black guy. Like I'm a rare Pokemon or some shit, But just making sure that, not only am I being a visible face, because I wanted to be a safe space. Because when I got into the game, there was two other black guys, my co-host Shanir and this other guy, Charles. That's it. So it's really about, when I came into it, I wanted to make sure that each year, if we do gain a new person of color, that it feels like a safe space for them. But I also didn't want to teeter that line of being the token black guy, but also not being the angry black guy. So, and I'm going to ask this question, you guys feel free to answer it. How do you kind of manage those hats of, when you got to get stuff done, but not wanting to come across as the angry black guy, but then also like parading and showing off why you love the team you support, but then that coming across as the token black guy, or as we like to call it, the Uncle Tom?
I'll let Rock start on that one.
Yeah, I guess I could take this one because for those who are unaware, I spent 2.5 years as president of the Third Rail, which is the first and largest supporters club for New York City Football Club. So in that time, I spent a lot of time doing exactly that. Now, the thing for me is I'm totally okay being the angry black guy when I need to be. That's why I ended up leaving, to be honest, is because people understood how serious I took everything, and not just for the sake of soccer, but for the shit I was trying to do, right? My vision was way bigger than kicking the fucking ball in Yankee Stadium. Like, that shit was the last thing on my mind. I was trying to change culture, right? And I think it's something that we have to be okay with doing, because the alternative is we get taken advantage of over and over and over and over again, right? Like I said, they need to put a budget behind you, because without you, what else do they have? We always talking about growing the game. Growing the game how? Where? So if we're going to actually do that, invest in it, prove it, do the legwork, right? We see, at least me personally, I see people who, I had a conversation today. People are working in the club, trying to make shit happen. And they're like, yeah, we support you. Go ahead and do it. And all they do is say you can do it. They don't give them anything. There's no budget for it. There's no marketing for it. There's no, the series of emails that they send out for everything else. You don't get that. You get one email the day before, be like, oh, don't forget we're doing this tomorrow. Please come. And that's it. That's not support. That's hanging people out to dry. That's setting them up for failure. That's leaving them with no budget, no room to really, really work, and saying, figure it out. And then if they do figure it out and they're successful with it, then you just take it and you co-opt it and you change it. So we have no choice But to pick those spaces where we have to say, look, I'm angry right now, and here's why. I've given you X, Y, and Z. I don't need nobody to ever congratulate me or tell me what I did for NYCFC. I know what the fuck I did. Period. You can have whatever feeling you want about me, but I know what I did. I know what I changed. I know how many people I went out one-to-one and brought to that stadium on my own dollar. So the team, in turn, not for me, but for people who look like me, the team in turn needs to go out and reciprocate and say, hey, I watched him do some really cool things. Like, how can we shape that and like elevate that, bring some more people in like him or different from him or whatever, but just more people so we can actually grow this thing. Yankee Stadium is at 161st Street in the Bronx. 1 block over in any direction, 10 blocks over in any direction. It's all black and Hispanic. And they don't come. They outside the park, in the park next to the stadium on game day hooping. I personally went in that park and handing out tickets to kids. I said, hey, can you make it to the game today? What game? They don't even know. It's cars everywhere. You know what I mean? They don't even know it's a damn soccer game happening in the stadium that's right next to them. I said, hey, there's a soccer game happening. You ever been to a soccer game? No, never. Look, no strings attached, man. I see you. I'm a black man. My best friends grew up here. I grew up in Harlem right over the bridge. I got 2 tickets for you. If you can come, they're yours right now. Just come and just chill. And they did it. I've done that many a day. The team don't do that. I went out, talked to the kids that was riding bikes in the skate park or skateboarding. Those kids too. You need to go get culture, man. All this, everybody knows soccer is for everybody. It's open to everybody. But that's if you find them. Who's going out to get people to bring them in? So you don't need to balance. That's not your job. It's your job to be who you are. It's your job to elevate yourself and follow your path and execute your vision. It's their job to support you in doing that. Because without you, they have nothing else, period. The Donald Wines of this world, the Gregos, Kyles, Els, Roxes, Curtis, elevate them. And not for profit. Elevate them. Because that profit will come when you just let them work, let them do fly shit, let them change the culture. And you will get everything you're looking for on the back end. More than you're looking for.
Feel like I need a Plastic Running collection player after that, man. God damn. Damn.
You know, it's weird because, like, you know, I have my fair share of shit too when I was involved in supporter culture, by and large, and it's in a lot of cases a thankless job in general. Is even more so when you're a black person doing that work. And I think that especially when you're trying to get a supporters group off the ground, there's definitely an element of where you're dealing with people who might not necessarily know you, you know, to the core, and they're seeing what you do, and you're like, and they're thinking, you know, is this person trying to take over and make this about him, or is he really trying to make this about the group? And I think that insecurity can come from anywhere, and especially when you're dealing with people who are in leadership, who are, you know, supposedly trying to grow that ship with you. There's definitely a lot of trust that's needed, and if it ain't there, then there's no telling like where all that might go. But I know that I've talked to Rox, I've talked to Cal, I've talked to L, I've talked to you, Yogi, as far as like what you guys bring and have brought to your particular team, supporter culture, past and present. And, you know, it's definitely something to where, if nothing else, if it's not you, you need to make sure somebody else is there to carry that work. And because the last thing that you want is for, once you go, there's nobody else that looks like you to take that wheel, and because it's very easily what started as one thing ended up totally something else. Like I actually had a episode with Curtis from Footy Mob, Curtis and Reggie Footy Mob, and we were talking about like how the Footy Mob that started like back in 2015 before anything got started was a different Footy Mob from, I think that was like 2019 when we had the interview. I'm pretty sure 2 years later it's an even different version, and you have to account for that adjustment, but at the same time you want to try to maintain the focused identity of what you want to do. Sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't. But I think that as long as we are in the dynamic, you won't fall too far astray from that. And hopefully you have people that are in this with you, that believe in the same shit, that want to do the same shit, and can carry that load, because not everybody can. Not everybody knows how to lead in that type of environment. Some people are just, hey, I just want to get my beer and have a good time. Some people want to get into those details and realize that, hey, there's actual work behind this shit. And hopefully, as we get older and a little bit grayer in the beard and everything, you find people in that process that have that same energy as you, that want to do that same things as you, and hopefully you all get there.
Yeah, I guess what I can say is just be yourself. And if someone wants to say you're the angry black guy, so be it. But as long as you're authentically you, people can make up their own mind on that. But if you stay who you are, they're going to at least know what they're going to get when approaching you, when talking to you, when working with you. So I think that's something that I know myself, Chris, April with Featherstone, we're just ourselves. We're ourselves in at the stadium. We're ourselves if we're doing a virtual watch party. We're ourselves in a board meeting. Like, we're just authentically who we are. Like, that's not going to change depending on the setting. Like, you're going to get what you're going to get. And I think that's something that, it's important to recognize that, and it's important to understand that. Don't change who you are to try and appease others. Just be yourself. And if they take it, cool. If they don't take it, is what it is. I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Yeah, most definitely facts of all of that, man. Al, I'm gonna ask you this question, man, because when you came onto the scene, man, like Two Cents FC was something that we haven't really seen a whole lot of. It was a different vibe, a different feel to it. Speaking to you specifically, what is it about the Black Soccer Podcast that can be part of this whole marketing of soccer that can definitely help grow the game?
It's really just about perspective, right? Like, everybody has their own unique perspective about the game, and that's really just what we wanted to do. Like, the podcast started for me and Amobi to just kick shit and talk about soccer news, in the way that we like to kick it. You know what I'm saying? And it's evolved over time, but for the most part, we just wanted to share our perspective and share from the perspective of black people, and Amobi as a black soccer pro. Kind of giving those other insights that you may not get from somebody who's just on the journalist side. So that's the main thing, just perspective, really, and trying to bring your own unique take to it. Really ain't no science to it.
All right, let me ask you guys all this. When it comes to Black Soccer Podcast, like, where do you feel like this boom kind of all started from? Because I'll probably say maybe 3-4 years ago, it won't no podcasts. It definitely won't no black podcasters or black writers or journalists, definitely in the game of soccer. So where do you feel like that whole movement boom from, and where do you guys see it going to in the next couple of years?
Boom from great. That's the facts.
Straight up.
I'm sure there was some black podcasts before him, but they weren't visible to us. That's just a fact.
Y'all are too kind.
I was gonna say,
go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I agree with Rocks. Like, I didn't know any other Black podcasters until For the Culture came out, and then it's been growing and growing. Like, Yogi, you're doing a podcast. Rocks, you're doing a podcast. L, you have a podcast. Like, it's just been growing so much, and it was one of those that I just didn't know about it, because kind of the same thing with Black soccer supporter culture. I didn't know this was a thing until it was put out in front of me, whether someone retweeted it, whether someone put it on Facebook, whether you just watch an MLS game or whatever game and it's on there. It's like, where the hell did this come from? How long has it been there? So I think that's kind of the thing. It's just more, it's grown so much, and I think it's become more visible with the rise of people podcasting, with the rise of social media, and even if it took really shitty events, I think people realizing that Black people have a voice and they should be amplifying it more often, as we saw last summer, as we saw the past couple months. People, like, elevating Black voices is going to go a far way. So, yeah, I would say the last couple of years, and I think it's only going to keep growing as people decide to take their approach into podcasting, and people take their chances and get the confidence because they can see all the other ones that are out there. It's like, well, they're doing it. I can do it. I can at least give it a shot. Whether I want to continue it is a different question, but at least I know there are people that are doing it and doing it well.
Right. First of all, you guys are far too kind. Far too kind. I think, of course, if you guys are pointing at me, I would actually point to Black Arrow. Aaron, and his guys out in Oakland. I got put onto them about it's been about 3 years ago now, and actually right around this time 3 years ago, and I got put onto them, and immediately it was like, yeah, that's what we need. That's what needs to be going on, and chop it up with those guys, and it was about like All-Star break that year. Aaron had come down. The All-Star game was here in Atlanta. Awesome vibes, by the way. Amazing vibes. And we had a conversation during one of the parties, and was like, we need to, make sure that we amplify our voice here in Atlanta. And it was me and Mary Ziegler. She's the one in Continental Tire commercials. She's one of the partners with me for the culture. And we were like, yeah, like, let's go ahead and do it. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, how can we get that voice out there? And the first thing I thought of was just a podcast, because at the time there really wasn't a lot of people that looked like us that were talking soccer, period. And I want to change that. I wanted to make sure that we change that narrative that, hey, Black people here are into soccer. If nothing else, that was always my absolute mission statement. It's like, yeah, we want to change that narrative that people think that Black African Americans here are not into soccer. I'm like, no, we are. We're into it. We're influencing it. We're all up in that shit all day long. And I think that without us actually talking about it, you'll never know. Like say at the time, I think like you had only like Charlie Davies, and on the occasion, Maurice to do talk soccer on TV, but like for the most part, you didn't have that regular podcast mix, radio mix, talking that shit on a daily basis and on a weekly basis. And I was like, hey, why not us? Since then you've had Banner Pub and River City and Forward Backwards and Chop Soccer, and like that voice is continuing to grow. And I think that only helps further the change that narrative that, hey, we're in the soccer, and we're in soccer in multiple levels, and hopefully, people continue to fuck with it, and there's even more voices out there. Like I'm still trying to get people out in LA to pick up on it, because of course there's plenty of people out in LA, and there's plenty of people in San Francisco and Oakland. I'm like, yeah, like we need to get those voices out there so that people know that, hey, when I say that the culture is real, the culture is everywhere, that shit is real. Like, we are everywhere. And hopefully, as time goes on, we keep pushing that boulder, say, hey, we in this. Like, hopefully, we're just all a vessel that continues to build this shit to where we are valued entities in this game, especially in this country where in a lot of cases we're not. And we need to do everything that we can to move that needle to where it's normal for one of us to talk soccer, whether it's Aaron West, whether it's Rocks, whether it's Joseph from Vanderpub, like any of us, like we need to keep moving that shit forward. So that way, this shit gets normalized.
Yeah, most definitely. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Nah, man, it's well said. Definitely agree.
Greg was a man of many words. That's why he's the spokesperson for Black Soccer Twitter, because it can't be me.
You're the mayor out here.
It could be any one of us, man. Like that's the thing. Like,
that's what we call him, Don King. He rated that. That's what we call him, Don King.
It could be any one of us, like it doesn't have to, be me. I'm all about. I'm a big believer in if we can all eat, let's eat. And whether it's you, River City, whether it's the Henny Derby, whether it's L, whether it's Rocks, whether it's anybody, like, I think we all have any of us who choose to get up in this has a responsibility to hopefully put this in a better position than we left it. And let's say just keep the needle moving forward. And because I think that now that the doors open, it's up to us to keep pushing that, just bust through that shit and make sure that people know that, hey, we here, we've been here, and we ain't going nowhere. So let's keep this shit moving.
Man, I think that's a great point for us to end tonight's podcast. I want to say thank you to everyone that's watching live. I think the peak was like 30, so that's kind of dope for our first ever live show. Definitely shout out to Greg, Kyle, L, Rocks. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Real quick before we end, where can everyone reach out to you guys at and connect with you guys?
Well, I guess I'll go. You can see my @ down in my name right there, @El Sharik. You may not be able to spell that, but definitely follow at 2 Cents FC and @2 Cents Sport. That's where we at most of the time.
You can follow me at Kyle Koche, and for Featherstone, you can follow them. I just got to double check. I think it was like FWD Featherstone.
You got to know that off the mind, man. You got to know that.
Normally it's just there. It's just there in my profile. It's there when I retweet it. I don't even know forward backwards at half the time. So,
and if you haven't done it right, make sure you check out Kyle with the Independent Supporters Council. He's been doing this thing on there, man. Like I said, Kyle's a big dude, man. He's about to turn to Charlemagne. Holla at him, man. I guess it's of course, as all, are you gonna do this with me, Yogi? You can say FTC
UTP.
There you go. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're not on TikTok, but yeah, we got the new Legends of the Culture hoodies that are out, shirts, cases, all that shit. But yeah, we'll be back with new episodes in February. We've been on break since like MLS Cup, so but yeah, we'll be back very shortly. The countdown is officially on, but yeah, keep up in the meantime.
Yes, sir. So I got a couple things going on right now. Chop Soccer Pod, that's our baby. It's me, Kenneth Kimber, and Shanoa Green. So you can find that on Twitter at Chop Soccer Pod, Instagram at Chop Soccer Pod. If you want to follow Apollo Culture Club, that's where I have all my fresh soccer shit. That's on Instagram at Apollo Culture. And we just push Instagram posts to Twitter at _ Apollo Culture, I think. I don't use it that much. But yeah, ignore that. And if you want to follow me personally, I don't be tweeting about shit anyway. At Rock Spontaneous is right there. And that's that. Thank y'all. I appreciate you, L. This was dope. Well, Elliot, not L.
I want people to know that I told Rocks like 2 years ago he did up on pods. Like I told him this, and he's like, no, that ain't me. I told him.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Real quick before I show out my stuff, I just want to give a shout out to Dysphoria United. They're a new podcast that talks about Black women in the game of soccer. So make sure you check them out. Also, you got Black Fires out there, Donald Wine,
Ebony.
That's a great one. There's one more that's slipping in my mind. The Banter Pub. Definitely all great Black voices all being amplified out there. So, if you follow us and support us, definitely follow and support them. In this whole podcast, even though we're talking about the marketing of soccer kits, it kind of involves this thing about amplification, just making sure that, not only are Black voices heard, but, it's constructive stuff going on behind that. So, of course, I'm your host as always, Elliot Barr. You can follow us at River City 93. Always, you can support Can I Kick It? You can be a subscriber for as low as $5 a month. If it helps out, it gives you better episodes. So, hey, I'm on the teacher salary, so I can't do that much. We also have another podcast called River City 93. It's a little bit more focused on the Richmond Kickers. We'll love your support on that as well. So with that being said, guys, keep us on the good side. We'll holler at you later.